really as the major crux of the ongoing budget problems? Aid to municipalities?
The problem is two things. There's too many employees and there's too many entities. You're not going to cover or solve the property tax crisis unless you have less employees. I mean, we were on the transition, and one report came out that the state increased 4,300 public jobs in the last month of the last quarter. How in the world can any public entity in today's environment increase jobs? It makes absolutely no sense, and our challenge should be go after those places, find out why they're hiring at a time when private sector jobs are disappearing. Why are public sector jobs increasing, and where's the accountability? I mean, Woodbridge, not to make a political commercial out of it, but 3 years ago when I took office, we had 740 employees, and now we have 690, without even touching the police force, keeping that at full strength. So we've got about a 10% reduction in civilian jobs. Yet other towns and other school boards and authorities and counties are increasing their payroll levels. It just doesn't make any sense.
Alan Karcher, Speaker of the Assembly, wrote a book called Municipal Madness, in which he talked about the incredible number of authorities and municipalities that exist in New Jersey. And I lived for a while in a place called Glen Ridge, which is independent municipality that's a sliver between Bloomfield and Montclair. Literally, I think it's 6 streets wide. But yet, when people are told that they should merge their municipalities and their school districts, they go absolutely crazy in New Jersey. How do you deal with that excessive localism?
Well, you don't merge, you don't challenge home rule, but you share services and you consolidate services. I mean, Woodbridge Township is 10 individual towns.
Right.
You know, Colonia, Island, Avenel, Port Reading, Ford, Seawarren. If I get up to them all now, Hopeland, Caseby, Menlo Park Terrace, and Woodbridge proper. If we were in Bergen County, we'd have 10 mayors. Right. We'd have 10 police chiefs, 10 public works directors, 10 CFOs, but yet in Woodbridge it works, and everybody in the 25 square miles reports to one mayor, one police chief. There's 3 high schools, 5 middle schools, and 16 grammar schools, one superintendent. So we're a perfect example of how towns can actually get together. We happen to be one town, but there's places where these towns can just share police departments, share garbage. We pick up garbage in Carteret. We're talking about another town now to pick up their garbage. We have an animal shelter that 3 other towns use. We're talking with towns about court. We're talking with our school district about bringing some jobs there over to us that we would manage better, hopefully. You know, they educate kids. That's their primary goal, and we can do other things for them. So let the towns have their own identity. Keep your political structure, but move your operational structures together with other towns. So you don't lose your mayor, you don't lose your council people or your identity. You can merge without merging and just share services.
How did that start? I didn't know about this in Woodbridge until about 2 or 3 weeks ago when some people came and talked to us here at the Hall Institute. How did that start?
I think it just developed. The towns
Was
developed.
Was it a mayor took the initiative?
No, it wasn't a merger.
Local groups? Or?
No, it just developed, and each town just developed its own identity. You know, they all have their own post office, their own fire companies, their own Elks and Knights of Columbus, and all the things that give Island its identity and Colonia its identity and Ford's its identity. But yet, it's always been Woodbridge Township. You know, 25 square miles, one town. But, you know, Caseby's highly industrial. Port Reading has the Hess plant. Seawarren has the waterfront. Island has an Asian Indian business district. Colonia is primarily upscale residential. There's all these different towns, all diverse. One mayor, one police chief, one public works department.
In Hamilton, for example, which is right outside of Trenton, I did a study that showed that they had more fire district station houses than per capita than Midtown Manhattan.
It's a common
and I don't believe we have very many buildings that are over 2 stories.
Right.
I mean, how did this start? It was just fiefdoms? Was it ethnic? How did we get to the municipal madness level that we're on now?
I don't know. I think in Woodbridge, we used to have, Carteret used to be part of us. Now Carteret broke off, 100 years ago into its own town. That easily could be merged back into Woodbridge. I don't know how these things happened, but it is madness now because there's 566 towns and 611 school districts and 10,000 elected officials across the state of New Jersey between those 2 entities and the counties and everything else. It is crazy. It is madness.
Now, what do you see as the way in which people will deal with the financial problems down the road. Are there going to be major cuts in aid to municipalities? There are going to be freezes on wages?
Well, there's going to be cuts. We've already taken 3 years of cuts. The government has to look at towns and school boards that are operating efficiently versus those that are not. If you give a 5% raise in your employee contract, you shouldn't get the same state aid as somebody else that gives a 2%.
Right.
If you have, one cop for every 2,000 residents versus one town that has one for every 200, there should not be the same aid given out. There's got to be a way to have formulas that reward efficiency. You have to be able to measure what towns are doing, how many employees do they have, how much work are they getting done, are they sharing services, are they efficient, are they effective, and reward the ones that are, and don't reward the ones that aren't. The school formula right now, there's a lot of towns, including mine, that are in the bottom in terms of aid they get per capita. Right. Freezing everybody at that level is not really fair. Let the formula work, and let the formula grow the towns that are below adequacy, give them their fair share of an increase, keep the towns that are getting too much aid flat, and then cut across the board. That's a fair way to approach it. You've got to bring people, the towns and the districts that are spending less and getting less back up toward the middle. So I think what I would encourage the governor and the legislature to do is, in the case of the school funding formula, let it work. Let it grow from X billion to X billion, and then make the appropriate cut to get to what the billions you want to spend. If they cut off today's level, towns like Woodbridge in the bottom 23 districts that are really spending less than they should spend and are getting less aid, bring them up a little bit.
Should the financial aid that's given by the state for schools be more linked up with accountability? That is, what students do in the classroom, how they score on nationally normed tests. Should we be looking at that?
I'm not an expert in that. I'm not an education guy, but you don't want people teaching to the test. You don't want people just so consumed by a test that every dollar's compared to that. There's other ways of measuring efficiency, and I'm not sure that's the way to do it. You're probably better off asking an education guy, but I hear teachers say that they get frustrated teaching to a test.
I hear that from my wife as well as others, and my argument is that for years you haven't taught to the test, and we now see the results of that. Maybe it's time to teach to the test.
Well, maybe it's time to see if we have the right number of teachers, if we have the right number of custodians, the right number of school bus drivers. If you have 4 custodians per building, you shouldn't get the same aid as somebody who has 2 custodians per building. Why should we reward inefficiencies? Education-wise, I can't really comment. I'm not an expert, but just pure numbers of employees, you really can look at that.
What was the transition team like when you
It was fantastic. It was a very good team.
I've been reading their reports, so I'm kind of curious.
I don't think there's ever been a transition with so thorough a job done, and so many reports that are this widely distributed and read and paid attention to. Every day the Star-Ledger has a story on one other report. I think that the people did a fantastic job. It was a very, very bright group. The governor attended all the meetings with the lieutenant governor and charged us up. And one of my quotes was, every time I hear him talk, I want to grab my helmet and jump on the field, because he got us motivated to get out there, be bold, give him ideas. You see now he's rejecting some of the ideas.
Right.
That's fine. But he didn't say what you could or couldn't say. You tell him something he doesn't like, he doesn't have to listen to us. But we, at least in economic development, gave him some really, really bold ideas for what we need to do to keep jobs from leaving and to attract jobs into the state. And hopefully, the majority of them get implemented.
What are we going to do with Xanadu?
Paint it.
Paint it?
It's the ugliest building in America. It literally, I can't imagine a building that as you drive down the turnpike, I'd rather pass every smelly refinery than see that ugly, absolutely putrid-looking building.
Shouldn't that be a prime piece of real estate?
It is. It is.
That whole area there.
But they brought the project to the state at the time when the economy was about to tank, so it was doomed. But first thing I would do is paint it.
What would it be used for?
Well, it still has a future as a retail center. I mean, it's got a lot of interactive stuff. When I was on the Sports Authority board, when it was approved, it has a whole different concept of retail. All the interactive stuff, and I can't remember all the things, but physical fitness things and cooking shows and film studios, all within, ski slope and aquarium, all those kind of things. That's a great concept, and it should work, but it started getting built as the economy was tanking and people ran out of money.
What color is it now?